Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, amma ba'd. We're going to start the book next week, inshallah ta'ala, but we'd rather go through the life of the Shaykh very quickly today, and we'll start the actual book next week. Because he hasn't been advertised, we can't really start the book, but we will start it next week, inshallah ta'ala. This new book is called Maqasid Al Sawm, the objectives of fasting. It's called Maqasid Al Sawm, the objectives of fasting. And in this book, the Shaykh, he brings you a number of chapters related to fasting and Masail. And the book is written by Izz Ibn Abdis. Izz Ibn Abdis. And so we'll start with a bit of the life of the Shaykh this week, and then next week we'll start the book about fasting. We'll carry on into Ramadan, and then after Ramadan we'll start our new book, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So the Shaykh will go through his life bi'idhnillahi ta'ala in a number of points. Number one, we're going to speak about his name, his nisbah, his name and lineage. Number two, we're going to speak about his birth, when he was born. Number three, we're going to speak about his teachers. Number four, we're going to speak about his students. Number five, we're going to speak about some of his authorships and his books. Number six, we're going to finally speak about his death. كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ. So starting from the very beginning, the Shaykh, his name is Abdul Aziz Ibn Abdis Ibn Abi Qasim As-Sulami. So his name is Abdul Aziz. His father's name is Abdus Salam. His grandfather is Abil Qasim. He's As-Sulami, he belongs to the tribe, and that's the nisbah to his tribe, As-Sulami. Al-Dimishqi Al-Shafi'i. Al-Dimishqi, why? He lived in Damascus. Al-Shafi'i is why? Attribution to his madhab in fiqh, Al-Shafi'i al-madhab. His kunya is Abu Muhammad. His kunya is Abu Muhammad. He is known as Izzuddin. And this is called what? A laqab. A title. Izzuddin. It's a laqab. And we mentioned before, many times, these kind of titles are disliked, according to the scholars. A title that has a reference to the religion. Al-mansubata ila ad-din, like Nasiruddin, Izzuddin, Shamsuddin, Taqiyuddin. All of these are what? Muhyiddin. Muhyiddin is who's? Imam al-Nawawi. All of these are what? Disliked. Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala himself said, لا أجعل في حل. I will take my rights from the person who calls me Muhyiddin on the Day of Judgment. And a lot of the times these names and this laqab al-qab, they were given after these people died. As they were alive, being righteous, they wouldn't accept these titles. But he's known as Izzuddin. Izzuddin means what? The honor of the religion. And he also has other al-qab. Sultanul Ulama, he's called. He is the leader of the scholars, or the governor of the scholars, Sultanul Ulama. He's also called Bai' al-Muluk, the one who sold the rulers. Not because he did khuruj, because he actually went and sold the rulers in the marketplace. He took the people who were governing the land, he took them and he sold them. And we'll come to it. Why? Because they were mamalik. They were slaves originally. He came to them and he said, are you guys mamalik, right? They said, yes. He said, do you have a way to prove that you guys are free? They said, no. No certificate? No. He said, then you can't govern us. Shar'an, you can't. You guys are slaves, you cannot govern us unless you're free. So we have to free you. We'll come through some of the stories of this man, rahimahullah ta'ala, wa'afa Allahu anhu. So he's called Bai' al-Muluk. He's also called Shaykh al-Islam. He was given the title of Shaykh al-Islam. And a few people were given this title called Shaykh al-Islam, like Ibn Taymiyyah and Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab and Ibn Hajar was sometimes also called Shaykh al-Islam. So a few people were given this title. So let's go into the life of the Shaykh. He was born when, number two, He was born in the year 577 Hijriya, and some say 578 Hijriya. And there's a khilaf. Some say 577, some say 578. The correct opinion in the closer is 578. 578 Hijriya. He was born in Damascus in Sham. Some of the scholars, they say he was originally from Al-Maghrib. Sulami is attribution to a tribe in Morocco, in Maghrib, that area. So he's originally from there, but he was born in, his family long ago moved to Sham, and he was born in Sham. Look at what Imam al-Dhahabi he says about him. He says, بلغ رتبة الاجتهاد. He reached a level of ijtihad. وانتهت إليه رئاسة المذهب. مذهب الشافعي came back to Izz Ibn Abdis مع الزهد والورع. He had a devotion to the akhirah that he left the dunya. And he was somebody who was scared of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالْأَمْرِ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَالنَّهْيِ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. He would enjoin the good and forbid the evil, and we'll see a lot of powerful examples from his life. وَالصَّلَابَ فِي الدِّينِ. He was firm on his religion. Just because you're a king and you say otherwise, he doesn't care. He will tell you the truth. The religion is the religion. وَقَصَدُهُ الطَّلَبَ مِنَ الْآفَاقِ. And the students, they came to him from different regions, from the horizons, different areas. وَتَخَرَّجَ بِهِ أَئِمَّةً. And scholars came out of him, meaning his students became scholars. As we will see, inshallah ta'ala, from his students were people who became scholars, like the Bishamat al-Maqdisi is his student. And the Shaykh, he was born, as we said, where? Damascus. And he has a very interesting story. He never started seeking knowledge just like that. He was actually, they say, working in Jami' al-Umawi, the Umayyad mosque. He was working there, cleaning stuff and things like that. So he would listen to a lot of the lessons that would happen in the Masjid al-Umawi. He would listen. And he wished to seek knowledge, but because he didn't have money, and that's the only job he had to employ himself and make a living. But he always wished to become a person of knowledge. They say one day he had a dream. A man called out to him and he said, Al-ilmu am al-amal. Do you want knowledge or action? In his dream. In his dream he said, Al-ilmu yajlibu al-amal. Knowledge, it brings action. He said, I woke up and then I really wanted to seek knowledge. So he said, then I reduced from my dunya and I sought more knowledge after that point. He became a very knowledgeable person, and he was given a position of khitaba, becoming a khatib in the Jum'ah. He became a person qualified to give sermons, and that's it. He wasn't teaching, he wasn't an imam, he was simply giving the khutbah in the Jami' al-Umawi. He had an interesting story where it caused him to move to Egypt. He was originally there, and this time it was Dawla al-Abbasiyya, the Abbasi dynasty that was there, and he gave a Jum'ah khutbah. And in the Jum'ah khutbah, he said something which got him in trouble. And to give you a bit of history and not go into too much detail, there was a man called Salih Ismail. He was the ruler of Sham at that time. He was the ruler. And there was a man called Najmuddin Ayyub in Egypt. They were related. Najmuddin Ayyub in Egypt, he wanted to establish a kingdom where the Muslims were combined. So Egypt and Sham were an authority together, because at that time the Salibiyin, the Crusaders, were coming to fight the Muslims, and the Tatar were invading Muslim lands, so they wanted to combine together. That's what Najmuddin Ayyub wanted to do. But Salih Ismail, he said no. He said the best option for us really is to have a treaty with them. So he approached the Salibiyin, the Crusaders, and he said, let's have a treaty. They said, exactly, that's what we want. A treaty sounds like a good idea. But to show your initiative, the fact that you want to do a treaty with us, why don't you give us some of the lands of Sham? Give it to us to show us your willingness to deal with us. Salih Ismail said, you're right. And they said, by the way, these fortress around Sham, they belong to us anyways. He said, okay, you're right. So he started giving certain lands around to the Salibiyin, the Crusaders. Not only that, then the Crusaders, they took it up a notch. They came to him and they said, you know what? In Damascus, you have weaponry, you have weapons, you produce weapons. Give us some of your weapons. He said, why? He said, we have some battles we need to fight. The Crusaders were fighting who? Muslims. So he said, no problem, I'll give you the weapons. He made a decision to give him the weapons. At that time, Izz Ibn Abdis was doing the Jum'ah khutbah. Guess what he spoke about? Having the treaty with the non-Muslims and giving them weapons at the time of fitna and bringing the ahadith and the evidence on the khutbah. And who's attending? The leader himself, Salih Ismail. And back in the day, the jami' is where the khutbah happens. There's one masjid. You don't have 5, 10, 20 masajid. There's one masjid. Everyone attends, even the leader is attending. When the meeting or the khutbah finished, and really who's speaking about the issue at hand, again, Ibn Izz, you see his personality is like that. He's not scared. The truth is the truth. And as a benefit, he is Ash'ari al-madhab, or al-aqidah. His aqidah is Ash'ari. We don't take away from the fact that he had courage, this man. رحمه الله تعالى وعفى الله عنه. In any case, when this happened, he gave his khutbah. The leader pulled him to the side, and the leader said, who were you speaking about in the khutbah? He said, I was speaking about you. It's muwajjahun ilayk, it was speaking about you. So he said, house arrest. He said prison. So he was put in prison. But because Izz Ibn Abdis was loved by the people in the land, he used to give the khutbah often, they then kind of did a protest and they said, we have to get him out. And they put pressure on the leader, Salih Ismail. They made him then in house arrest. Even then, the people were not happy because he's stopped from giving khutbah. So they pressured again. And he said, no, it's a bit tricky now. So he said, I'll expel him from the land. He said, leave the land. I'm not going to kill you, I'm not going to do anything, just leave. So he left. He went to Misr, Egypt. And Egypt was run by Najmuddin Ayyub. When he went to Egypt, as soon as he arrived, he was made the Khatib and the Imam of Jami' al-Amr ibn As in Egypt. Right away. He's like, you, Al-Izz, we heard about you. Najmuddin Ayyub, he said, come, you're the Imam and you're the Khatib and everything. He made him Qadi Qudat, the judge of all judges in that area, the supreme judge. And he started mentioning things and giving khutbah, everybody liked him. It reached a point where he realized a lot of the people and the rulers, the people in position like the army leader and the justice of hospitality, these people in position, manasib, they were quite harsh. And he also realized they were mamalik. Originally, what had happened is Najmuddin Ayyub, he bought the people from places like Turkey and stuff, and they were slaves. They were slaves, they were owned. But over time, he started to trust them. They showed any skill set and ability, and he made them people in position. So Izz Ibn Abdis said, they're not free. He realized, Shar'an, they're not free. One, you're already being oppressive against the locals, against the common man. On top of it, you're not really free, you're slaves. It doesn't work. For you to become a governor or a person of authority, you have to be free. A slave doesn't even own the money he has in his pocket. The money belongs to who? The Sayyid, the master. He said, no, we have to fix the issue. So he said to them, do you have any money, any certificate? He said, no. Are you free? No. Then we have to free you guys. Again, the authority Al-Izz ibn Abdis had, he was someone respected even by the ruler at that time. Najmuddin Ayyub, he respected him. He said, sorry, but we have to change these people. Either you free them or they can't rule. So he said, fine, free them. Najmuddin Ayyub said, I'll give you money and khalas, make them free. He said, no, it doesn't work like that. It has to be freed properly. So we're going to take them tomorrow, or they set the time. We're going to go to the marketplace, present them in front of the people. These are, by the way, these are not normal people. These are the rulers, like the figureheads and the people who have 5 badges and 5 stars. Present them, offer them to the common people, and then anybody who wants to buy them buys them and frees them. But the money doesn't go to you, it doesn't go to me, it goes to Baytul Mal. He said, no problem, agreed. And this was a Yawmun Mashhud. Bought, placed them, And they say every time somebody posed an amount, the ruler Najmuddin Ayyub, he said, I'm going to give you more. He said, khalas, done, write it down. As soon as he bought that slave, he freed him, and the money goes to Baytul Mal, and that's why he was called Bay'ul Muluk. He's called Bay'ul Muluk. There's an incident that happens in his life, is worth noting, is when he single-handedly brought down the adala of a man who was a wazir. His name was Mu'inuddin. He was a wazir, he was a minister at that time. He was a very harsh person, very harsh. He would do whatever he wants. One time news reached Izz Ibn Abdis that he built a singing area or singing place on top of the masjid. There's a first floor, there's a second floor. He made a place where people would sing and stuff like that. And it was common, these things anyways. But the fact that he made it on top of the masjid, it reached Izz Ibn Abdis. He said, is that the case? He said, yes. He said, we have to fix this. And he basically made a taqreer, a statement, released a statement. He said, we have to, number one, destroy this singing place. Number two, this man, Mu'inuddin, his opinion is never going to be considered in this land. We're not going to take his opinion. He was still the minister. He was still carrying out his duties. But if he said something, nobody trusted him. Why? Just because Izz Ibn Abdis said he's unreliable. And on that day, when he released the statement, they said, no problem, we'll destroy the singing place, but it's going to take us time to bring the people. He said, no problem. He gathered his kids and his children, they went out, and he himself went and broke down that place of singing. Rahimahullah ta'ala. And there was an incident that happens. Al-Mu'tasim was the Khalifa at that time of the Dawla al-Abbasiyya. He hears something through Mu'inuddin. Mu'inuddin sends in news to Al-Mu'tasim, the Khalifa. The Khalifa said to the person who conveyed the news, who brought you this news? He says, Mu'inuddin. He says, are you sure it didn't come from Najmuddin Ayyub? He said, no, it's from Mu'inuddin. He said, no, I'm not going to take this news. Izz Ibn Abdis told me and said to the people, he's unreliable, I'm not going to take the news unless this news comes from directly who? Najmuddin Ayyub. And even the Khalifa knew the status of Izz Ibn Abdis. After that incident, nobody would take his opinions. Mu'inuddin. There's an incident that also happens where Najmuddin Ayyub himself one day is walking in the marketplace, and he's the ruler of Masr, Egypt at that time. He's walking in the marketplace, and Izz Ibn Abdis looks at him and he says, Ya Ayyub. His name is Ayyub, right? Najmuddin is a laqab, but his name is Ayyub. He says, Ya Ayyub. Nothing. No Amir al-Mu'mineen. Nothing. Why? He was very angry at him. He says, what's with all of these alcohol places you've opened up? By the way, this inkar of the ruler way in front of him. He said, what's up with all of these khamarat, these alcohol places you've opened up? And the man said, what alcohol places? I don't know of anything. Izz Ibn Abdis said, that place is alcohol places that have come to me, news about it. And then he said, it's something that it was there before I came, like before I got rulership, it was already there. He said, are you going to say exactly what the kuffar said? Inna wajadna abana ala millah. We found our forefathers on a religion and we just followed. No, you fix things. So right on the spot, he pressured him, and Najmuddin Ayyub, he went and destroyed all of those khamarat that he mentioned. An incident then happens where Egypt later on, by the way, Najmuddin Ayyub goes away, a man called Qutuz, he comes in power, and then the Tatar, the Mongols, are attacking Egypt. When they're attacking Egypt, they need money. The Egyptians and the Muslims need money to defend Egypt. So Qutuz at that time is called Saifuddin Qutuz. He says, we need to take money from the local man, from the common man, funds, extra tax, so we can then have weapons so we can defend Egypt. So he said, I want to do this, but I want to consult you, Izzuddin Abdus. He says, Al-Izz Ibn Abdis. He says, I want to consult you. What do you think? Good idea? He says, good idea, but we can't just take money from the local people. What about the people who are in governorship, the authorities? They're rich, right? Why don't we take their money? But to make it just, The rich people need to sell all of the extra money that they belong and they have until their level is equal to the common man. Then we take equal money from everybody, from all of them. And then he did it, and that's how they got the money to fight the Tatar, and they fought the Tatar. He also fought against the Salibiyin, the Crusaders as well. He took part in the battle called Ain Jalut, and later on, even Saifuddin Qutuz, he was killed by a man called Ruknuddin Baybar. After him, he killed him, and he became a ruler. And he told everybody to come and give me bay'ah. When he came to give him bay'ah, the first thing Izz Ibn Abdis came to him and he said, "You, what's your name?" He said, "Ruknuddin Baybar." And his last name was Bunduq Dari. He said, "This name Bunduq Dari, is it your name?" He says, "No, this is the name of my master who owned me." He said, "Are you free?" He said, "Yeah, I'm free." He said, "Have proof?" He said, "Yeah, I have papers." He said, "Bring it to me." He said, "No, give me bay'ah, then I'll give you. I'll show you the paper." He says, "No. Give me the paper, show me you're a free man, then I'll give you bay'ah." So he went, he opened the chest, wherever it was, he brought the paper, I showed it to him, and then gave him bay'ah. So, rahimahullah ta'ala was a man like that, Izz Ibn Abdis. Some of his teachers, number 3, some of his teachers are, number 1 is Saifuddin al-Amidi. He's what? What's his madhab? Who knows al-Amidi? Ash'ari fil Aqidah, is Ash'ari in his Aqidah, right? Saifuddin al-Amidi. Abdul Latif Ibn Ismail al-Baghdadi was also one of his teachers. Also, Hanbal ibn Abdullah was one of his teachers. Also, Abdul Rahman ibn Muhammad, who is known as Ibn Asakir, is his teacher. Ibn Asakir is the teacher of Izz Ibn Abdis. Some of his students include Abdul Rahman ibn Ismail, who is known as Abu Shamat al-Maqdisi. Abu Shama al-Maqdisi. He is the student of Izz Ibn Abdis. Ibn Daqiq al-Eid is also the student of Izz Ibn Abdis. Also, Abdul Mu'min ibn Khalaf al-Damyati. He is the student of Izz Ibn Abdis. And this Damyati is not the Damyati who explained, who has a hashi on Al-Waraqat. Al-Waraqat, Ibn Ali al-Juwayni, there's a hashi on it, a commentary on it, one of the best commentaries on it by Al-Damyati. That one is called Ahmad ibn Muhammad al-Damyati. This one is called what? Abdul Mu'min ibn Khalaf al-Damyati. So these are some of his students. Some of the books that he's written various books, a lot of them. Like we said, his books in Aqidah are according to the Ash'ari madhab, but he's written a tafsir of the Quran, a summarized tafsir of the Quran. He's also explained individual ahadith. He's explained the hadith, la darara wa la dirar. There is no harm and causing of harm. He's explained the hadith by itself. He has a sharh of Hadith Zara'a, the hadith of Aisha, the famous hadith of Zara'a, called Zara'a, but it's the hadith of Aisha. And he also has a mukhtasar of Sahih Muslim. He has a kitab called Bidayat Al Sawm fi Tafsil Al Rasul. Now, Bidayat Al Sawm fi Tafsil Al Rasul. And this one, he brings in it 32 khasa'is of the Prophet. 32 things that the Prophet ﷺ was unique in. Khasa'is are things that the Prophet is what? Uniquely known for, and it's only for the Prophet. Like marrying more than 4 women. Like al-wisal, fasting days in a row. This is unique for the Prophet ﷺ. Like the Prophet ﷺ's saliva being blessed is only for the Prophet, etc. He brings 32 of them with the evidences. It's called Bidayat Al Sawm fi Tafsil Al Rasul. He also has a hadith called Targhib Ahl al-Islam. And the full name is Targhib Ahl al-Islam fi Sukn al-Sham. Targhib Ahl al-Islam fi Sukn al-Sham. Encouraging the people of Islam to live in Sham, in the area of Sham. And he brings evidences. He has a kitab called Maqasid Al Sawm, the objectives of Salah. He has a book called Manasik al-Hajj the actions of Hajj. And the book that we have in front of us is called what? Maqasid Al Sawm. Whether this book is a part of a bigger collection that didn't reach us, or it's an individual book, Allahu A'lam. It seems like it's a part of a bigger collection. Because he has Maqasid Al Salah, he has Maqasid Al Sawm, and he has other books called Maqasid. It seems like he wrote a book on Maqasid Al Sharia. Maqasid Al Sharia is one of the elements of our religion. It's like a sub-branch, you could say, of Usul al-Fiqh / Qawa'id al-Fiqhiyya. It's in that category. It's called Maqasid Al-Sharia. It's like he wrote a book in it, and this book reached us separately, that book reached us separately. The best book he has, perhaps his masterpiece, is a book called Qawa'id al-Ahkam fi Masalih al-Anam. Qawa'id al-Ahkam, or Qawa'id al-Ahkam fi Masalih al-Anam. And it's a book similar to Maqasid al-Sharia, Usul al-Fiqh, etc. The whole purpose in Qawa'id al-Fiqhiyya, mainly Qawa'id al-Fiqhiyya inclined. The purpose of that book is how the scholars, they speak about the principles of fiqh, and they say a lot of it goes back to إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ الْأُمُورُ بِمَقَاصِدِهَا, etc. The purpose of his book is to prove the whole religion revolves around bringing benefit and pushing away harm. جلب المصالح and دفع المضار. Taking benefit on board and pushing harm away. He says that's the whole religion. He proves to you that's the entire religion. Ibn Taymiyyah came and refuted that concept. He said, no, the whole religion revolves around just bringing benefit. Pushing harm is a part of bringing benefit anyways. In any case, that book is a very, very good book. A lot of benefits you can take from that book. The last point is when he died. He died in the year 660 Hijriya in Egypt. And roughly, he lived how many years? 82 years. He died at the age of 82. رحمه الله تعالى رحمة واسعة. That is a bit about the author, Izz Ibn Abdis. بإذن الله next week we'll start his kitab, Maqasid Al Sawm. The book is a very small book, not big. We may finish it within the lessons in Ramadan. Next week the lesson is going to be after Isha, but starting Ramadan is going to be after Asr. And we finish it, maybe 5 lessons we'll finish the book. It's not a big book at all. He breaks it down into several chapters, starting with the obligation of fasting, and then he goes through certain rulings regarding fasting, the benefits of fasting. He goes through some of the voluntary types of fasting, and other masail related to fasting as well. It's a book, Kitab al-Latif, very nice book. So we'll go through it inshallah ta'ala, and we'll finish it in Ramadan. Any questions? Questions? Barakallahu feekum. I apologize for going overboard. Jazakumullahu khairan for your patience. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفره وأتوب إليه. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خير.